Welcome to Donor Cultivation. Although it is critical to constantly expand your donor base through finding new donors, cold calls, etc., the objective of today's video is to give you some tools to better manage your current donor base and work on cultivation. This scenario has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you. You're about to make a solicitation, your annual visit, and you suddenly realize that the last time you spoke with this donor was a year ago when you made your last solicitation. Hopefully some of the tools I'm going to provide for you today will ensure that you avoid this problem in the future. Before we get into the specific steps of managing your donor base, let's talk about some practical things. First of all, we're going to talk about cultivation methods and frequency and intensity of cultivation methods. Cultivation methods range from everything from matzah before Pesach, shalach before Purim, Friday, Shabbos, Erev Shabbos phone calls, delivering challah, inviting people over for Shabbos, bringing them a gift on their birthday, honey cake before Rosh Hashanah, to buying them a plaque on an annual basis, etc., etc. Anything that you interact with your donor that's not about specifically soliciting them for money is considered cultivation. Now, we have frequency and intensity. Some donors, by default, you interact with on a regular basis. They come to your Chabad house, they come to your shiurim, they come to your Shabbos davenings, etc. Or you have a very close relationship with them. Those are frequent donors, frequent cultivation people. Then you have intense methods of cultivation where you meet with a person on an annual basis, biannual basis. You have an intense meeting with them, you bring them a gift, but it's not happening on a regular basis. So the interaction may be more intense, but less frequent. And then you have any variety of that. This will become relevant later on in the steps that we're going to take to build out an effective donor cultivation base. So step one is to identify who your donors are. A single list. We have CMS database, other databases you may use. You have your Palm Pilot. Oh, we don't use those anymore. Your Apple iPhone, your Android, or some other method of tracking your notes. Plus you have paper, and you've got any other method that you keep your notes in and your names wherever they may be. We want to gather all of them and create a single destination for all of these things. And even if you did it last year, inevitably during the year your names found their way to other places. We want to bring them all back together to a single location, and that's going to be your spreadsheet. But before we get to the spreadsheet, who ends up on this list? So you have to decide that for yourself. In step two, we're going to rate our donors. Who are the donors? What is our approach to cultivating them, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for now, in step one, we want to identify any donor that's going to be important to you to interact with, to cultivate in a conscious manner. That person is going to end up on your spreadsheet with all of the names of other donors that are going to fall into your cultivation list, people you're going to be conscious of cultivating on a regular basis. In step two, we're going to rate them. By the way, if you don't like Excel, use some other method. That's fine, but they should all have a single destination that's easy to work with. Number two, we're going to rate them. Now, when we talk about rating your donors, you can use 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, whatever you want is fine with me. The main thing is you identify what each of those ratings mean. And what those ratings mean is, what am I going to do with this donor? Am I going to deliver a challah to them every single week of the year? Or am I only going to deliver them matzah and shalach manas before those respective holidays and an occasional Good Shabbos? Or am I going to merely solicit them once a year and send them 3 gifts a year? Or is it somebody I'm going to call every single day to wish them good morning and make sure that they thought about me when they drink their morning coffee? Whatever it might be, you define what A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3 are, and next to the name of your donor, you write what rating they are. Then you're going to, in step 3, you're going to spell all that out. Then you're going to, on the top of your spreadsheet, you're going to identify what A means. What does cultivating A mean? And in the individual columns, you're going to write A means challah delivery, shalach manas, shmura matzah, Erev Shabbos phone call, birthday gift, etc. You're going to sort your spreadsheet according to your rating. So all of your A's end up on that spreadsheet. You're looking at your names, you're looking at the rating, and you're looking at the cultivation method. Then the bottom part of your spreadsheet, or a second sheet, you're going to have all your B's. What's the method? And then you're going to have your C's. What's the method? What are all the specific task items I'm going to do to cultivate all of my C's? Then, step 4, you're going to set yourself a reminder, a weekly reminder. Every Monday, you sit down and you go through your list. You get that email that says, review your cultivation list. Every Monday you're going to review your list and say, okay, all of my A's, or these 5 A's are up for a phone call this week. These 5 B's are up for a challah delivery. These 5 C's are up for their annual plaque. Whatever it might be, you've got a time there. Those names and those tasks associated with that end up on your schedule for that particular week, or if it's a few weeks out, it's on your horizon. I need to order the plaque so I can deliver the plaque to Mr. So-and-so 3 weeks out. This happens every single week. This is the only way it works, so that you're reminding yourself, you're constantly working with your spreadsheet to remind yourself of upcoming cultivation tasks. So let's review. Number 1, you're identifying who your donors are. Number 2, you're rating your donors. Number 3, you're putting your donors into a spreadsheet based on the rating and the cultivation methods that each rating gets. And number 4, you schedule yourself an ongoing reminder to make sure you're communicating with your donors and effectively cultivating them. If you send me a text to 404-931-6449 with your email address, I will send you the spreadsheet that I use for this very purpose. I want to close out with 2 other suggestions. One is something that I started a little while ago, and that is not specifically associated with my donor base, but anybody that has any kind of connection to our Chabad house. Whether they have showed up to a class or did make a donation, they end up in a separate list. And that list obviously is going to be significantly larger than your donor list. Nonetheless, they end up on that list. They're not necessarily people you're going to be focusing on cultivating. Every week on Sunday night, I take that list and I take the top 25 names of the list. I put 5 names on each day of the week. And every day of the week, I make those 5 phone calls. I call those people and say, hello, how are you? We haven't seen you around. We love seeing you around. We'd love to grab a cup of coffee with you, just checking in on you. Whatever it might be, just a touch point interaction with them. Inevitably in those conversations, sometimes you're just going to leave a message and you won't get a phone call back. Sometimes you're going to make an interaction with that person that you're then going to then have a cup of coffee with them, lunch, invite them for Shabbos, whatever it is. But it keeps those names and those individuals on your horizon to make sure you're constantly nurturing, growing your Chabad house and strengthening their own connection to your Chabad house, to Yiddishkeit, and to support for what you're doing. Finally, one of the things I've learned over the last few years is that when you provide practical guidance for people in their lives, that opens them up to a greater connection to Yiddishkeit. As the old saying, take care of their Gashmias, and then by default, the Ruchnias follows. So one of the things I'm doing to kind of merge these different ideas is before Pesach, we're going to have a donor brunch. And it's a recognition brunch, simply thanking our donors for their support. It's going to be a free lunch, a free brunch. It'll be good food on a Sunday morning. And we're going to have a speaker there. Besides an opportunity to showcase what our accomplishments are at our Chabad house, we're also going to have a speaker that's going to talk specifically on something that's practical for them. It might be money management, it might be some health-related stuff, it might be relationships, some kind of practical tools that people can take home from that day, that morning gathering, to apply in their own lives. So just something to think about, something that perhaps you might explore in your own Chabad house. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for participating, and have wild success. Hatzlacha Rabbah.